here. But anyway, welcome to Flinders. Great to have you all here. We've got a lot of people online and we've got a packed room here as well, which is nice. So my name is Matt. I'm from the Student Learning Support Service. I'm a lecturer here. And in our group, we do a lot of different things around the university. We provide student support. We also teach students who are in pre-university programs so they can come in to study at the university before their degree. We also provide academic staff support as well. So we have a really good look at student learning across the whole university. We are a good group of people to get in touch with if you need any support, okay? So one of the things that we do is we provide these sessions during O Week to give you a bit of a head start at your semester, answer some of your questions. I'll also show in a minute a few other ways you can be in touch with us as well. So before I begin this session, I want to acknowledge that we are on Ganyata, the land of the Kaurna people, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. So today we'll talk about a lot of things. There are multiple parts to this, but really there are two parts. We're going to talk about some of the language that is used here at Flinders, because that can be very important to orientating you to the university and how your studies work. Then we'll talk about different learning activities, assessments, and grades. So at the very beginning, I want to talk about us as a support service. We have a few different services online. If you Google Flinders study guides, there's a lot of different study guides we have online for you to have a look at. Through Flinders Learning Online, that's your learning management system. All of your materials will go on there for each of your topics, and we also have some material on there as well to support you. We have videos, some text-based stuff for you to read, all this kind of stuff. On campus, we also have a thing called the Learning Lounge. In the Central Library building, on level 2, between 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock during the weeks of semester, we have a couple of learning advisors there. Normally they're PhD students who are there available to support you. You don't have to register or anything. All you have to do is come in with your assessment, for example, or some questions. You can sit in the space, do some study, and then occasionally have a chat with one of our learning advisors. They're a great support. So that's an in-person support. If you scan this QR code that is on screen now, you'll get access to our webpage. I'll leave it up there just briefly because some people are grabbing for their phones. That's a very useful webpage. If you're at the back and you zoom in with your camera, you might be able to capture that. Sorry, it's not a little bit bigger than that. That webpage is very useful. You can also access it by Googling Student Learning Support Flinders, and it will come up as well. That has a directory to all the different types of support we provide. So that's very useful. This is one in-person way of supporting you. Just keep it on for a little bit longer because I can see a lot of people are accessing that and have a look. The important thing about us is that while sometimes we work with lecturers in topics and we have some of our support embedded into your classes in a way, we also operate centrally to the university across all the colleges, right, and all degrees. So sometimes our service is a bit centralised. You can also access study support online through Studiosity. Studiosity is a third party. It's not Flinders, but we have a relationship with Studiosity and you have access to them as students of Flinders. They provide 24/7 support. You can chat to them about your study with questions. You can also submit to them work like a draft assessment you've been preparing, and they'll have a look at it and provide you with some feedback. Importantly, we and Studiosity don't give you too much feedback on the content of what you're learning because we can't be content specialists in everything. For example, my degree, I'm an education specialist, but also I'm a scientist. I have a few degrees in chemistry, but I will not help you too much specifically with your chemistry. I'll help you to study better, okay? So I'll help you to develop some strategies where you can access support, you can work within your context, whatever that is, law, chemistry, nursing, all of this. That's the kind of support we can provide. I'm not sure where the QR code on screen takes you to. It's probably, yes, probably some information about Studiosity. But when you get used to being on Flinders Learning Online, any topic that you're in, pretty much. On the left menu, you'll see a little button, or on the menu, there'll be Studiosity written. If you click on that, it'll also go through to log into Studiosity and to use that.
Studiosity online support page.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's useful, but maybe not the best. Just keep in mind in Flinders Learning Online, you can find that means support. All right, so for the first part, we'll talk about colleges, courses, and topics. University, really, what we do is all around knowledge. Okay, it's the higher education institution, a research institution, and that's what we do. We all of us, me, I'm a lecturer, a professor in one of the colleges, you as students, as starting students, also PhD students, as students who have been around for a long period of time, we all create new knowledge through doing research. Okay, we all do that. We all put knowledge into practice. So we all are expert practitioners or become expert practitioners over time. And we all learn new things. We're all students for lifelong learning. So we all encompass these ideas around knowledge. And that's important to keep in mind. Just because you're starting doesn't mean that you're super fresh and, you know, not really part of what goes on the university. You can feel very much part of what goes on in the university. The questions that you have, the questions that you bring to class, and the things that you think are highly valued. Okay, so how does it work? Flinders is divided into 6 colleges. So with regard to knowledge, sometimes those areas of knowledge can go very deep, okay, and they're very specific. So we break these up into different colleges. There is a College of Business, Government and Law. They focus on those areas. College of Education, Psychology and Social Work. Humanities, Arts and Social Sciences. Medicine and Public Health. Nursing and Health Sciences. And Science and Engineering. So like I said, these colleges have a physical location in different parts of the campus. Here in this building, this is in the College of Humanities, Arts and Social Sciences, broadly. Academics and students will research, learn, study in those different colleges. Here it is. All 6 colleges focus on different areas of knowledge. So, where does your degree fit into this? Your degree program, okay, the degree that you're working toward is also called a course at Flinders. At different universities, course might mean something different. But at Flinders, course means the whole degree, okay, the thing you graduate with. Your course is a collection of topics. So at Flinders, if you're a full-time student right now, you'll have 4 topics you're enrolled in, normally, okay? They're the different kind of semester-long classes you take. You do a bunch of different things in each of those. And topics can come from any college, okay? So for example, if you are a Bachelor of Arts student, that doesn't mean that you only study in the College of Humanities, Arts and Social Sciences. You might study a topic from a different college, okay? And a topic from this college. You can even choose sometimes to study something completely different. Or you can choose to study in the same college, all right? They come from everywhere. So the way that the degree works then is because it's made up of these topics, it's not like you have one class, cohort, that you're with the whole time throughout your whole degree. It's not like you have your Bachelor of Arts buddies and you go through all together, always in the same class, all the way through to the end. You have many different classes you're part of and they are the topics. Some degrees or courses have core topics you must do, okay? And these are especially for those degrees where you get some sort of professional accreditation for, okay? And you go and practice in a particular profession that requires you to study certain things. So for example, nursing, teaching, also engineering, there are many that have core topics you must do, okay? So for example, in nursing, you might have professional skills for healthcare specialists that you must study in first year. These are core topics. In other degrees, you can have a choice of focus. So if you're in a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts, especially, those two, you have a lot of choice to make, okay? So you have a lot of choice, but you must major in something, meaning you must spend a certain amount of time studying one particular thing in detail. That's so that when you finish your degree, you've got a specialisation, okay? Got a Bachelor of Science. I do actually have a Bachelor of Science, but it's in chemistry. And so I have a major in chemistry. You can also study other sequences in a smaller amount. I have a minor in mathematics, So I studied chemistry most of the time during my degree. I studied mathematics a bit. The reason why I chose that because I wanted at some point to do teaching, and I was clever and I thought at the time I needed to do a major in one area and a minor in another area so that I could teach those two things in a school. You see, so you can be strategic. Remember, the degree is yours, right? And especially when you have a degree with a lot of flexibility, you can also be strategic about how you do that. You also don't have to pick and choose now. You can change your degree later on. Okay, so just because you're enrolled in a particular degree now, it doesn't mean you can't change it in the future. Sometimes you have free choice, and these are broadly called elective topics. They're not special topics. They're just the same topics that everyone else studies. It's just that for you, according to your course, you're choosing it, okay, as an extra thing. So for example, if I'm studying chemistry and mathematics as my major and minor, I might decide randomly to study a bit of philosophy, okay, as an elective. And that goes toward my degree as well. So in the end, your degree is a bit like a patchwork quilt, right? Some patchwork quilts have a structure which is predetermined for you, or a lot of it's there that you have to do. Like for example, nursing and teaching. Because when you go and you study as a nurse in a hospital, you need to have studied a certain amount of things. Other ones you can make up yourself, but there needs to be a pattern to it that's recognizable. Okay, very quickly, I talked to you about our support service. There are a lot of support services though. The library, you might not think it, but they have a lot of resources to support you. Flinders Connect is on the ground floor of the library, and they can help you with anything. Any questions you have, a lot of you will have questions for me, and I'll say to you, I'm not exactly sure, go to Flinders Connect. They won't know necessarily, but they've got the numbers of everyone and they know who to put you in touch with. Okay, because that's a very important resource. If you're not on campus, you can also call them, okay, and they'll put you through to talk to someone on the phone. There are also health services on campus. There's a GP service. There's also health counselling, disability, lots of different services, okay? If you've got anything that you need, it's a bit of a micro community here. You've already been out there today and seen how many people are around. It's a big organisation, 25,000 students at any one time, 2,500 staff. It's a big community and a big campus. Careers and employability, there's another team that can help you think about the things you can do now while you're studying to set yourself up with a job when you graduate as well. Okay, so any support you want, this is not an environment. University study is a bit of an individual thing, but you don't have to feel like you're alone. Okay, we want you to succeed as well. So if you need any help or support, or you have any ideas or want to explore something further, reach out. I've already talked about us. Level 2 of the library is where you can find the Learning Lounge. And just to say again, we have a whole team of academics and we're experts in learning, okay? So we can help you to develop strong strategies to improve your learning through the semester. Okay, so just to recap that first part out of, I think, about 4. Language that we use at Flinders, we talked about colleges, what that means, what services are, okay, like us, me and Catherine, my colleague here. We talked about the degree and the course, they're the same thing. Topics are the actual classes you do, and in Flinders Learning Online, you'll see your different topics and go in there and do your assessments, and it's got all the information there you need. Major is what you do during a degree if you've got a highly open and flexible degree, as well as a minor. Core topics, lots of people have core topics you must do, and elective topics are choices to fill in the gaps. All right, I'll move on for now, and I think I'll get to questions toward the end, if that's okay. Just because if we start having questions, it'll start taking a really long time. I think we'll just leave it to the end. So different learning activities. What are the different learning activities you'll do at Flinders? We have lectures, tutorials, workshops, laboratories, or other practical things that you do, and online activities. This list is not exhaustive. It's a big university and there are a lot of different disciplines, and different lecturers will do things in different ways. So these are just a few. However, broadly, all of these activities are kind of like a type of activity. Okay, so some people might say, you might have a lecturer who calls what I might call a workshop a seminar, right? Or something different, right? So broadly speaking, these are the types of activities you'll do. Lectures is like this kind of a situation. Now, the reason why we're doing basically a lecture format here is because we've got so many people. And that's the point of the lecture. The lecture is when you've got someone who wants to give you some advice, some ideas, but there's a lot of people. And so it's better to just have someone talk about that and then have some questions or some input. Have someone talk about it and vice versa, okay? So forum to share specialist knowledge, especially with a large audience. Now we can do that online too, but this is a face-to-face version, which still a lot of lecturers do. Content is shared through okay, so nowadays, another way of reaching a large audience like this is, like, I could prepare a short video for you all to watch. In fact, I have. This session is broken into 4 short videos, which are available somewhere. And if they're not, it's because they were taken down for this year or something, and a recording will be put in place or something like that. But anyway, short videos, sometimes your lecturers do this. A big group gets it, but you can watch the short video and you can replay it and watch it again. We have live theatres like here today, and often these days we'll do it in a hybrid way, so online will join as well, and also just with online and web platforms like the Flinders Learning Online. The best thing to do during a lecture, and I'm having a looking around today, and everyone is doing this because it's Monday and everyone's fresh, right? Actively listening to the thoughts and ideas that someone is talking to you about. Same with the short videos and same with a lecture theatre like this. I'm not here for no reason. I have a point to make. And even though sometimes you might have a lecturer who sounds a bit boring, right, or whatever, there's always something in there, right? We have a lot of world specialists here in their fields. There's always some sort of gem of information, even though sometimes it's hidden, even though sometimes it's hard to find. There's always something good to listen to that. Also, in an active way, when I talk about, or when a lecture talks about ideas and different ways of thinking, you can also start doing that thinking yourself in class, right? So the way that we remember things best is to try and make meaning of things. So if I'm talking to you about Flinders and different colleges, if you can think about that, try and make meaning of it, and continue listening to what I say, and continue to do that, that's a very efficient way of remembering things that are said. You don't have to remember everything, just a few important things, right? Take notes as you learn about new ideas or new challenges. There's no need to transcribe what a lecturer says, but writing down a few key ideas that you think about at the time can help jog your memory later. And also, try writing questions down that you can ask your tutors or peers or your lecturer at another time if a question comes up. Even writing it down sometimes can mean that you're listening out for it if you hear it later on in the lecture. Tutorials and workshops are a little different. They're normally an extension to this kind of content, lecture-based content, short videos, this kind of thing. And it's normally a smaller group of people so that everyone has a chance to discuss with each other and the lecturer, tutor, different ideas, to practice problems or calculations if that's the type of study you're doing, a bit of hands-on trying that out. You can do that in your own time too, but it's good to do that when you've got peers around who are also learning. You can help each other, and a tutor or lecturer can help you along as well. And the important thing about these types of sessions, tutorials, workshops, is to ask questions. When you don't know something, ask the question, because the only reason why I'm here and you're here is so that you can learn. And I know you don't know it all already, right? That's why we're here. So when you have a question, you can ask it. And there's no such thing as a silly question, right? Because even if you ask a question that's obvious to some people, it's not obvious to everyone. And those are the things that we want to address as soon as possible, right, in your learning journey. Excellent. Laboratories, practical sessions, these are a bit different. They're like specialised workshops, but typically what you do is you'll start to practice the work and skills of a professional in your field, right? And this often has, where you're doing, you always do this depending on your field. So in tutorials and workshops, you might be practicing the work and skills of a professional in that field. And normally you would for any other purpose, but especially when you have, when you're learning to be a clinician or a practitioner of sorts where you have hands-on things to do, that's the time when you get practice at doing that. So my tips for that, when you're doing practical work and you're using facilities on campus like a laboratory, you only get a limited amount of time to use those. So make sure to prepare for them well, okay? Read widely before going into those sessions, right? Be aware of any safety procedures. There's no point going to the laboratory and not knowing about the safety procedures or some things that you have to know about before you even go in, because it's a waste of your time then. You don't get to use the facilities. So have a look at those things beforehand and feel as prepared as you can to go in there. Become familiar with typical field-specific rules. Again, for that reason, I can't, as a chemist, I can't tell you how many different safety things to keep in mind and unwritten rules, right, that are important for when you go into the laboratory, right? When you go into a chemistry laboratory, common sense is really important because when you drop something, it's okay if you drop something in the chemistry lab, by the way, but it's just best avoided, right? So sometimes we have very strong acids, and things that are caustic and stuff like that. So these are just things to be aware of so you can get the most out of the session. And you're still learning, of course, so that's okay. But it's good to do a bit of prep work. Study what you have learned in class. A lot of the theories, even though they may appear to be dry at first, will come alive in these sessions. And if you're not aware of them, that means having a look at some of the content, taking it in, thinking to yourself, how will this apply to my lab situation? These things will happen in your hands in a laboratory, but if you're not aware of it, then you miss out on all of that wonderful stuff that you're doing in the lab session, for example, or field work. So make sure to be diligent with studying things before you go into those classes. Okay, online activities. There are a lot of online activities. They have become increasingly popular, okay, in recent years, of course. You can access them through Flinders Learning Online. I've got this here. Collaborate is old. Forget that's there. I haven't edited that out. Collaborate does not exist. So we have a learning management system. It's very different to the types of the platforms that you're used to engaging with on your phone, for example. It's a bit more clunky than that, but it has everything you need. It's got all the instructions you need there to do well at your topic. It has all your assessments there. It has assessment instructions. It has assessment rubrics. We'll talk about that soon. So it's got everything there. Become familiar with Flinders Learning Online, because that is an important place to be, okay? It's not just about in-person classes. There's a lot of stuff to look at online in your own time as well. There'll be lectures, tutorials, and workshop materials all online, videos and text to have a look at. Often there's interactive content as well. Okay, so sometimes we have videos that you have to click, answer questions, all this kind of stuff, and quizzes, and also discussion forums as well. So often there'll be a discussion forum where the lecturer will have posted a question or something for you to discuss. Make sure to make use of those as well. Sometimes you're in a big class, but contributing to those and reading those can help a lot. There's a lot to be learned peer-to-peer as well as just from the lecturer. Okay. This is a really important point. University is a very individual thing to learn at university, okay? It's also a shared thing, and that's why we have our classes. But one thing that is most important is to consolidate the things that you've learned, okay? You might have only so many classes per week and think, this is great, I've got this many hours here, this many hours there. It's important to do work and stuff like that, of course. However, if you study full-time, it is a full-time load too, right? So in your free time, make sure to use that wisely, to plan that, to consolidate the things that you've learned. It's not easy to do. It takes a lot of time revisiting, re-practicing, rereading some things, asking some questions, sometimes going searching the internet and Googling terms that you don't know. When I started teaching, well, not when I started teaching, but when I was learning, I did not have the internet on my phone, right? So, I would be listening to the lecturer. If I didn't understand something I said, I would either have to ask a question, ask my peer, go to the library or something. Still do that. But now you've also got the world's information in your pocket as well, okay? make sure to use that. That is an amazing resource. If you hear a word that your lecturer says that you don't understand, you can go and find that out. All right, so it's really on you to go and consolidate that learning and to push it further. It's for you, okay? Okay, further reading, practice, reflection as well. To reflect on your progress, how am I going? You know, if you have an assessment and you didn't feel very confident that you knew the content very well, maybe that's the time to reflect and think, oh, what could I do? How could I strategize to do a little better? Do I need to spend a bit more time on this one? Sometimes, like I said, we're doing many different topics, and some topics we'll be doing very well at. Others, we won't be doing as well at that time, and it's easy to spend more time on the things that we like. But if you have to do those other ones, maybe it's important to spend a bit more time consolidating that and seeking some support and advice about that too. So it's very much, you have to be very self-driven as well in your studies here, because no one will be on your back to make sure you do it. The lecturers will not ask you whether you've done your assessment on time. They often won't remind you that it's due, right? And they won't say, oh, for anyone who hasn't got through this part of the textbook or seen this resource, you have to do a catch-up class. There's none of that stuff. It's all on you, right? So this is the nature of the adult education. Okay, so just a bit of terminology here. We went through lectures, tutorials, workshops, and laboratories. Online, they're all different styles of engaging with learning, and they're all valuable, and you'll get a mixture of them through your degree. We also have practical type stuff, Flinders Learning Online, collaborate, forget about, and also consolidate your work. Okay, now we're doing pretty well for time. We'll go into assessments. What are assessments and why do we do them? This is very important because, you know, if you don't do anything, what you do have to do, okay, so like I said before, a lecturer is not going to care if you don't come to class normally, right? It's up to you to do what you want to do. But what they do care about very much is assessments. You have to do the assessments, okay? And if you're unwell or you need an extension, that's totally okay to ask for that and ask for it in advance. But you have to do assessments in order to get your grades and to pass your degree. So assessment items are learning activities that are assessed by your tutor or lecturer. You'll have some familiarity with that already anyway. Assessments in each topic are detailed in the statement of assessment methods, available in Flow. There are many different types of assessments. Again, this is nowhere near exhaustive. There are so many different types, it's not funny. Some of those, essays, reports, presentations, for example, oral presentations, sometimes visual presentations like a poster or an infographic, quizzes, and also exams. Before going into detail, I want to highlight this from Jeff Masters, who's from the Australian Council of Educational Research. He says the purpose of assessment is to measure where you are in your learning at the time of assessment. And that is very much the ethos that we have around assessment. Assessment is simply an attempt to measure how you're going right now. Okay, that will change over time. You will grow. Just because you got a credit on this assessment doesn't mean you won't get a distinction on the next one, right? And it doesn't mean that if I assess your work and give you a credit, that I'm 100% accurate and right, okay? Because I've used something that you've produced, like an essay or a report, to try and infer how well your learning's going, okay? So there's an inherent challenge with assessment. It's very important, but there is an inherent challenge. So keep this in mind. It's just to measure where you are in your journey at this time. And you can always improve. And you can also go backwards too. It's also true. There are a lot that are called extended response or extended prose. These are things like essays, reports, often presentations. These are things where you have to read very widely, think very deeply, apply what you have learned to a situation and write a lot about it or talk about it in a presentation. And you have to communicate with a lot of detail. So it's important to keep that in mind and respond accordingly. There's no use having an essay that you write that doesn't go into much detail. This is the time for detail, all right? And you want to show, because it's an assessment, you want to show me, for example, how much you've learned. So showcase that. Tests and quizzes are different. They're often shorter, okay? They're often responses are less than a sentence or 2 paragraphs. Sometimes they're just multiple choice questions. You select something, and it's normally a very focused area of the curriculum, right? Like the stuff that you've learned in the first 4 weeks, something like that, sometimes even less. This is not the place to go into detail, right? So if you're doing an exam, I think exams are coming up, a test, and you're supposed to give a response in a sentence, don't give more than a sentence. It's not necessary, right? Or 2 paragraphs, don't give a full page. But when you have those assessments that ask for 1,000 words, that's when you go into detail and make it rich detail. Exams, there are less and less exams happening these days, but there are still a few exams around. A large portion or the whole curriculum is tested. And again, there are different types of questions depending on the area of study. For example, if you have a law exam, you might have to write several essays in that time. Okay, and so you have to be strategic about that and plan for that. Right? Have a plan of attack for those. Provide answers of an appropriate level of detail. If you're in an exam and it's timed and you've got questions that only have 1 line to provide as an answer, only provide the 1 line. And if it's an essay question, don't provide 1 line, right? I know it sounds simple, but it's important strategy. Skills and practice, sometimes you're assessed on your practical skills. Okay, so for example, if you're studying to be a healthcare professional, you might have to do an assessment of a patient or a mock patient or client, and that's a type of assessment as well. Laboratory, fieldwork, clinic. And so there it matters that you really make use of those times where you get a shot at doing that in the learning activities before an assessment. Okay, so your learning journey is the most important. Assessments and feedback especially. Feedback on assessments are important. They tell you how much you've learned, where you're currently at in your learning journey, as best that the lecturer can do with what they've been given from you, and what to learn next. So do your best at your assessments so your lecturer or tutor can make a best assessment they can and provide you as accurate feedback as possible. Okay, that's really the sole, that's really the engagement you want to have at university above everything else. It's really important. Here's an example of assessment rubrics. Often when you have these extended pros, like a big thing that you do, you'll have these assessment rubrics. And what they normally do, I know you can't read this, you'll have a bunch of criteria. Up here, it talks about different aspects that you talk about. So, for example, this one down here is about communication. The one at the top is about critical reflection. This is what I'm assessing my students about. Along here, there's a quality criteria moving all the way up that talk about doing some things, doing some more things, doing some more things, all the way up. This is kind of the expectation. So you can aim for the top expectation, okay, that's as it's described in these rubrics. So when you have an assessment and it has rubrics, always look at these and read them. Aim for the top. You might not make it to the top all the time though. You might think you've made it to the top, but remember you're learning. So if an assessor puts you down here, listen to their feedback and their comments. They'll give you some ideas on how you can get to the next box, right? And why you got that box, okay? So the assessment rubrics are often a good way to interact with feedback with your assessment. Okay, some terminology there. And then we've got one more section about grades. We talked about the purpose of assessment, the statement of assessment methods, essays, reports, presentations, tests, quizzes, exams, skills-based things, assessments, practicals. Talked about the curriculum, all the things that you will learn. That's actually a syllabus, but it's the same kind of idea, and feedback that you receive. These are all important things to think about and to engage with. Okay, in the last part, we'll talk a bit about grades. I left this to the end because I know it's what most people want to hear about. If I put it first, the room would be empty. We'll break for questions soon too, okay? At Flinders, there is a grading scale. Okay, now grading scales are different in different parts of the world and different institutions. They're roughly comparable, okay, but sometimes they're a bit different. Here, the top grade is called a high distinction. It is usually awarded when the grades that you've got on all the different assessments you've done in a topic equal an aggregate score of about 85%, or 85% and more. That's called a high distinction. The important thing is what it contributes to your grade point average. Okay, so you get a 90, that's fine, that's nice. You get a 95, that's nice. But what happens is if you get 85% or above, you get 7 points. So if a student over here gets an 85 and the student over here gets 100, you get the same point score. Okay? 7 points towards your grade point average. For a distinction, that's where you do your assessments and you get together as an average, right? When you put all the weightings together, you get a score between 75 and 84. And there you get a point score of 6. Again, it doesn't matter if you get a 75 or an 84, you still get 6 points towards your grade point average. The credit is between 65 and 74. The point score associated with that is 5. If you get a pass, it's between 50 and 64. The point score associated is 4. Sorry about my coughing. And if you get a fail, it's normally given to you when you get less than 50%. And there are circumstances where you can be given supplementary assessments, all this kind of stuff. I don't like the word fail. It's called a fail, though. I like to say not yet. Not yet means you're not quite there yet, right? So next time, right, there's still progress to be made. It's just not quite yet, okay? But it's called a fail, and it comes up in your transcript as an F. That gets a point score of 0, okay? And there are also non-graded passes. Some topics you study are just a non-graded pass, meaning you have to do it, you have to pass it, but you don't get like a grade scale. That doesn't contribute to your grade point average because you just have to do it, okay? Okay, good so far? There are a few important dates before we get into some grade point average examples. Withdrawing. You are allowed to withdraw from topics. It's okay to start a topic, have a go at it for a while, and then think, it's not for me. This is an important date, 29th of March. That is called the census date. If you withdraw before the 29th of March, you get no tuition fee, okay, and that means no HECS debt, okay, associated with that topic. You get no point score, and it doesn't go on your transcript. It's like it never happened. So if you're trying out a topic, do it for, normally it's about 3 or 4 weeks before here, and you think, nah, I don't want to do it. You can just cancel the enrollment, and it's like, all good, okay? That's the census date. There are other dates that are important. If you go past the census date, you do have to pay, okay? Because we count it as the number of students that are going, and there is a payment for the for tuition. However, if you go past census date, pay for it, okay, or pay for it in the future, but then you decide, nah, I haven't done very well and it's just not a good time for me, or something's come up, I want to stop. Before the 10th of May, you can withdraw and not be given a fail. So what happens is it goes in your transcript, you tried this topic, WN, meaning you did it for a while and then something came up and you had to do something else. You do have to pay for it. However, it doesn't have a point score associated with it. It doesn't count toward your grade point average. Then if you go past this, you can still withdraw before 14th of June, but it's called a withdraw fail. Okay, and the point score associated with that is 0. It's essentially an F, but it means you withdrew before the topic finished, okay, before the last assessment. So those are important dates to keep in mind. I don't want to talk about like withdrawing and failing so much, but those are just things to keep in mind if you have troubles that come up. They do come up, and it's totally okay if things come up and you need to stop, okay? So they're important things to keep in mind. Those dates are all on the student calendar planner thing, all that kind of stuff. Okay, your grade point average. This is important, okay? So the whole idea of the degree is that you do your topics, eventually you pass them, and then when you pass them, you collect all the tokens for your quilt, right? And then at the end of your time studying, you've got enough topics you've passed to earn the degree, it satisfies the degree, and the university says, here's your degree, okay? And then you can go and get a job with that degree, all kinds of things, or you can study further. The grade point average is important, especially if you want to do more study. And I put it to you, you don't know if you want to do more study now. By the time you get to the end of your degree, or you might have finished your degree, worked for a while, you might think, oh, I want to go back and do a master's, right? I want to do a master's in this area or a different area. Then your grade point average becomes important, because when you apply for a grade point average, like you applied for your degree, you might have had like a high school score or something that you got in on a competitive basis, because we've only got so many seats in the room, right? Your grade point average will be the thing that you go to once you start at university. Okay, so the high school score doesn't matter anymore. The grade point average matters. Okay, so it's the average of all the point scores for all topics you have studied in your degree. Remember the 7,654 average of all those for your degree, and it's useful for degree transfer to additional study. Also useful if you want to go study at a different university. Okay, it's recorded officially in your transcripts. So let's do a few examples. Let's just pretend this is your first semester at Flinders. You have 4 topics because you're studying full time and it's a regular kind of topic loading, and you get a credit score for all of them. Doesn't matter what percentage you got a credit, okay, in that bracket. That means you get 5 points for each of them, and the average of all these, of course, is 5. Okay, so when you apply for further study, your grade point average at the moment is 5. If you got a distinction in 2 of those, so you tipped over that percentage line to get a distinction, 2 of these are 6s. And then if you add these all up, divide them by how many, that kind of stuff, the average, working out an average, you get a grade point average of 5.5. And a grade point average of 5.5 is better than 5. Okay? Let's have a look. This person, this is someone else, studied completely differently to you. They got a pass here, they got a high distinction here, credit, distinction. They went the full breadth of the different grades. Okay, not a fail there yet, but got a whole different group. But as an average, it's the same. So that's equivalent to getting 2 distinctions and 2 credits. You see? So it doesn't matter how many HDs you get. That's nice to get. If you do well and you're like, oh, I got a high distinction, I put a lot of effort into that one, right? The average really counts, okay? Now, this is important. The same stuff, but instead of a pass, it's a fail, right? You get 0 points and the GPA suffers a bit. Okay, so it's important to point this out. So, sometimes you might want to withdraw from a topic. Sometimes you want to make sure I put a bit of extra effort in to get a pass, get across the line, okay? So that's the effect of having a 0. Now, I've talked a lot about those grades, okay, and all of that, but this is very important to keep in mind. And I'm a very strong proponent of anything that Carol Dweck says, okay? She says, and she's very firm about this, she's a psychologist from Stanford, professor of psychology. Grades are a byproduct of engaging deeply and effectively in the learning process. What that means is forget about grades and just engage deeply in learning and enjoy it, okay? And engage with it and have fun with it. And the grades will sort themselves out. It's a byproduct. You don't even have to think about them. And sometimes if we get too distracted by grades, we stop engaging deeply in the learning process. Okay, so that's a very important quote that I have on screen there. Excellent. Okay, this is at the end now. We talked about high distinction, distinction, credit, pass, fail, non-graded pass, the withdraw not fail date, withdraw fail date, census date, and the grade point average. And I think we're at the end. So are there any questions for me or my colleague Catherine to answer? Yes.
When you say online lectures, which are already there in our timetable, are these pre-recorded sessions on the floor, or are there one-on-one sessions online?
The question was about online sessions. If it's in Flow, it says about an online session. That's very individual for the topic. So there'll be some more information about that. Sometimes online sessions are also done like this and broadcast online. Sometimes they're just online though as well, but it's highly individual to the topic.
Where are we going to be able to find these resources?
Hey, if y'all are leaving, which is valid, can we just make sure that we keep the volume just a little bit down so that we can hear the questions? Thank you.
Just have a few people interested in questions. So, sorry, what was it again?
Where can we find this?
Oh, yeah. So this session is being recorded. There is a website. We can post it in the chat online. But if you Google Flinders O Week, there is a web page about orientation. It's got a lot of colour on it. It's got this kind of postage stamp type stuff around it. So Flinders O Week, you'll find a web page and everything's on there. It's also got a planner. So it's Flinders Orientation, Flinders O Week. It's got a planner there. It's got all the different sessions, and I think it will be available there.
Okay, because I looked online for it, so I did find it.
Yep.
I just didn't even realize you could do it online.
Yeah. So that space has online links to visit these sessions online, and in time, a recording may go up there. Okay, and if it doesn't go up there in a long time, maybe just ask someone at Flinders Connects where it is. Okay. Yes.
They held like every week.
Drop-in sessions with us. Oh, okay. Yeah. So the question is around drop-in sessions and support that's available either in topic or outside. There are a lot of topics here at Flinders. There's a lot of different, so anything in topic will be very particular to that topic. So Flinders Learning Online is the best place to look for that information. Outside of that, we have some central support, which is drop-in, no registration required, which is in the library, the central library on level 2. And we're available there between 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock every day. We also have a presence at the city campus and at Sturt campus at different times as well, if you're there. That website that I showed before, and if you look up Flinders Student Learning Support, you can find all that information there. Yep, yes.
With like workshops that are in the first week of uni, we have lectures that are all those workshops or like, yeah.
So the question is about workshops in the first week. And I understand that, you know, first week, next week, you're not orientated yet at all, right? So I think there are some sessions which are, they won't be topic specific. They'll just be college specific or degree specific, some things like that. The best thing to do is to have a look in Flow, right? So if you can log in, have a look, and normally there'll be a welcome message or something on the first page of that, and then you can go through to the modules or whatever. Have a play around there, right? It's reasonably user friendly, and it will have some information there, but then it will be quite individual. You know, different lecturers will provide a different amount of support by saying, oh, assessment's due, or these workshops are here. The other thing is that some of those workshops and lectures, you might have someone else who studies in the same topic, but they might have a different time for their workshops and tutorials and things like that. So yeah, Flow's the best place to look. And then if you're really unsure, you can message someone in the topic. Yep, sounds good. Yes.
So if I study at the night time,
yeah,
and I don't know some, and I want to ask something, so I will connect with the Studio City platform.
Yes.
We have call in. We just chat with them, or we will have a meeting.
Yeah. So the question's around if you're studying at night time, what support is available? And you mentioned Studiosity. Studiosity you can access 24/7, and you can have a chat with them whenever, because they're not all in Adelaide, right? They're all over the place. It's a big company, and it's quite international. There's people in Canada, for example, and all over the place. They can help you. Yes, by chat.
And the 29th of March.
Yes.
Will be the last day that I will go.
Yeah.
My study if I see that is suitable for me.
Yes.
But and then I can change to the other subject.
Yeah. So the questions about the census date and withdrawing at that time. It doesn't mean that you withdraw from your whole degree, right? And you're going out of university. It just means that when you're studying a particular thing, it's just not the right time for you. What you can do then is that you can either withdraw from that topic and just continue studying whatever else you had, right? Or next semester you can study something different. Sometimes, and honestly, I can't provide any advice on this, but I have known of people to enroll in more topics and then drop one, right? But normally, if you're withdrawing from one, it's good to use that extra time to study the other, for example, 3, the rest of your load. But it just means that you will study an extra topic sometime later on to make up the time. Yeah? Yes.
Last year when we were doing foundation studies, we got told that flow was going to go down and we had to use compass instead.
Use what, sorry?
Compass?
Yeah. Yep, so for people who have been here for a while, we had a different learning management system, which was also called Flow, but actually it was called Moodle. Okay, so Moodle is the actual company that has that product. and we changed from the Moodle product to one called Canvas. Okay, so the Moodle product is gone. It's gone completely now, and it's all on Canvas. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about, when you go onto Flow and you look at it, and it's got like a white backing type of style, that's what I'm talking about. So for people who are starting, there's nothing different from the previous year, but for people who were here last year, we've moved completely to the new platform, and everything will be in there. Yep.
So, for example, if I fail one topic in one semester,
Yes.
Can I register the last topic in the next semester again?
Sorry, if you fail it, then
If I fail the topic
Yeah.
in the first semester,
yes.
well, can I register it again in the next semester?
Yeah, so the question is, if you fail a topic in one semester, can you then register to try it again the next semester? And that, again, is highly dependent on the topic. So the topic will be run at certain times because there are certain teachers that run it. Sometimes they'll only run it in first semesters. So if you need to do that topic and it only runs in first semesters each year and you fail it, then you just have a go next year. Yeah. If it runs every semester, then you could have another go at it straight away. Yeah. Is there any other questions?
There's just a question online, which I can read off.
Yep.
Which is essentially, if I were to fail a compulsory class, would I have to retake it second semester or the following year, and would it affect my study plan?
The short answer is yes. If you have a core topic that you must finish and you fail it, or you withdraw from it and it's not a good time, then you will likely have to do it at some point in the future, yes. And it can change your study plan a bit. For example, your degree might then take 6 months longer because you have to, pick something up. What I need to say about that is that it happens quite often, okay? So if it happens to you, it's totally okay, right? And obviously at the time, depending on what's going on, put as much effort as you can into those topics when you're studying them. But, we all know that times come up when you just can't do it, and you need to drop that, or it happens that you fail that and you give it another go another time. That's actually totally fine. It happens a lot, but it might affect your study plan a bit depending on what you're studying. In fact, if you're doing a full-time load and you want to finish your degree in the shortest amount of time possible, if you do withdraw or fail from something, it normally will extend you a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean that the extension you'll be studying full-time still. You might only be studying a little bit, right? So that study plan is something to think about and to take care of. Yes. Yes, every topic normally has a bit of a schedule and an outline. And when you go into Flinders Learning Online and you have a look through that for each individual topic, because the timetable will be different for every topic, that's where you can really make sense of that. For a lot of you, you might not know what's going to happen next week yet, right? Which I know is a bit stressful. But if you get onto that online platform, and some of you won't have actually signed up on the online platform yet, right? So this is the week to have a look in there and try and sort that stuff out. Some topics do get started straight away in first week. Really start covering a lot of stuff in first week straight away. But have a look online. If you really have troubles, you can message someone there or get in touch with someone. But normally it's pretty, once you get on the platform, it's pretty self-explanatory for the first part if you just have a look around. Yeah, it'll be okay. You'll all be in a different place after the first couple of weeks. You'll be like, oh, now I know a bit more about what's going on here. I'll just have this one quickly, sorry. Yes? Textbooks? Yeah, again, it's quite topic specific, of course. In the online space, there may also be an area on the left menu that says readings. If you click on that, a lot of readings are available electronically. Sorry? It's normally on the left menu of Canvas, of Flow. So when you're on the platform, there's a left menu. It normally says announcements, modules, all these things you can click through. One of them might say readings. And when you click on that, it gives you digital access to the library information about those readings. Should do. And if it's not, there might be another area in the information for your topic where it says these are the readings you should access through the library or whatever. Yeah. Yes, yes. All the textbooks will come through the library digitally at least. Yeah, in some way. Yes.
So,
Oh, sorry, I'll come back to you in a sec. Yes.
Are there people in the student support office this week that can help or not really?
Not in our drop-in service. No, no, we start next week.
So who would I go to? Because I've got a few questions about I started next week and some emails that I don't
Okay.
really understand.
It's about your topics? Yes.
So who do I go? Because I went to the library and they said I had to go to student support.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. Well, I'm hanging around for a couple of minutes. We can have a bit of a look. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's okay. All right. And I know you've got another question still.
Okay,
So, what's your question?
well, I have a 20% scholarship for
Yes.
my course.
Yeah.
And what do I need to apply for the next semester for a scholarship?
I don't know. But so are you actually have you come internationally to? Is it an international scholarship?
Yeah, it's an international scholarship.
Oh, okay. I think that the international ISS, the acronym I can't, International Support Services, I think it is, ISS. They're the best people to. You might have been in contact with them already. International support, yeah. They will know and they'll be able to help you. For example, Cassie or someone I know them there. They'll be able to help you with that. Yeah, yeah. Yes, that's okay.
Very like my schedule specific,
Yeah.
but are all the classes that I'm trying to do, they all going to be week one?
It's
They will have week one, or they will have like just start.
yeah. You might just have to look really closely. Yeah, yeah. It's also I'm not sure who else to ask other than asking like someone in the topic. Like you can email the lecturer or you can post it on a discussion forum or something. Yeah, that's okay. It's always the case. Like once you hit first week, things will be a bit more clear. Yeah. Yes. I think I might just turn this off so we're not recording our discussion here.
You know what? You might want to get in touch with not careers, if you get in touch with who coordinates this program, which I can find. You know what I'll get you to do? Ask Flinders. Do the Ask Flinders online or go to Flinders, and there will be people who can help you do stuff like work and stuff like that. Depends on the program. So ask, I would ask that with most years, I think it's second and third. Usually what they do is they do second and third and they so usually you're okay. But if you want to try others, usually one of the things that's about sorry, it's about a 6. I opened to my others at a 6.2. I know somebody got to others at the 5.1. It really just depends, but we'll quarterly do like no worries. Okay, yes.
I was enrolling for most of my subjects. I did not know if there are any elective subjects or anyway I should enroll for more topics than the core topics that are on in the student.
around what? Yes. You can take your own. I know there's one, you can have one, yeah. Yeah, you get in touch with Flinders Connect. They will find someone who will organise you study plans and also provide you with, essentially, you have a conversation with an advisor. What is your aim? What are your goals? How can you make that a possibility? So they will be able to use that, what you need to be able and how many courses you can take, whether you can underload or overload. So you get in touch with Flinders Connect. So you can either do an Ask Flinders request, which is essentially one of these. You just search into that, or you can go to Ask Flinders.
Right.
They are just below the first level. So on the level that we are now, go down one level, that's the Ask. So you usually kind of have to enroll people. But if you can, you basically Google Flinders handbook, and what this will do will show you every single course that you can study. So essentially, you can go through by college. So, for example, if you want to take a psychology elective, these are all of the topics. Right here, you go to topics. All the courses are available. Click in. They'll show you if there's any prerequisites, if it's running the semester, and then essentially what you'll be able to do is search for that within the enrollment page.
No, I'm sorry. I have one question. So if I do get a few electives,
Yes.
which are available for my college, do they help in improving my GPA or only the course topics are available?
They help you in your GPA. They add towards the GPA, but if you are enrolled, your topics are taken into consideration. Yeah, that's what it is. This page here. So essentially, what you want to do is Google handbook Flinders, right? It's the first thing that pops up. You basically can search like college, right? You go into the college and then down here on the right-hand side, there's topics, and that'll show you everything. Yes.
Know how we can kind of improve our learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you connected with ISS? Are you connected with them already?
Yeah. We saw one email.
Yeah, if you get more in touch with international student services, if you email for assistance, they can essentially sit down with you and talk you through how we can get you to a place where you are in life. Yeah, so connect with them. A meeting might be helpful, right? Or you can again go down into and they can essentially set you up with a study advisor.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. I can make an appointment through the website itself.
I would say email them. Are you already in touch with them?
Yes, through Outlook.
Yeah.
Emails for
If you like get back in touch with the person who emails you, and just ask to be in something to discuss like scholarships and like financial help as an international student, then yes.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. Naman, by the way.
Oh, and Catherine, it's lovely to meet you. Lovely to meet you. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, online, can you hear me? Because I just want to be able to answer your questions if you need me to help answer your online questions. Okay, great. I will just go through them now because it might be a bit quicker than me typing them in. So how will you find out how many contact hours you'll be expected to do for your course? This is something that will be discussed in week 1. And it's also something that you'll be able to find on the flow page. It is essentially worked into your curriculum. So your tutors and your topic coordinators in week 1 will go over it if you're unable to find it on the flow page. Let me see how many average hours per class so you can figure out how to budget your time appropriately. It really depends on what courses you're doing. But you can usually budget for about contact hours. There will usually be 3 to 4 a week. Those are hours that you need to be on campus, and then you will be doing a specific amount of reading, which might amount to an extra hour. It is certainly manageable and achievable, but it again really does depend on what your overall contact hours and your overall expected hours will be. Let me see. Does that answer all the questions that we have in the chat? Chester, I'm not sure which session you're talking about, but I can help if there's one specifically. Business management with a full-time job, could 2 units be done? Look, this is really down to how much you manage your time, but certainly I think if it's something that is definitely possible, especially underloading at 2 units a semester. That will probably be an expected 10 to 15 hours a week for both of those units. Just that's again an estimation. I'm not super familiar exactly with what business management entails, but I think that the 2 of those would be accessible for you to do with a full-time job. And good luck with everything, Kelly. You'll kill it. All right, just before I log off on the Teams chat, are there any more questions that our online people would like an answer to? Not me, it will be someone else. It's just something that you can use. For example, us sending it upload necessities to there for them to feedback, proofreading, all of that kind of stuff. But you can also just get in the chat and ask. It is essentially you do that through your website. So if you get onto Canvas, so this is like there will be a link for students inside here that will open. You sign in the normal fan, and it will allow you to use this form. Oh, you can do 8,000 words. So pretty much you're having to read. So 8,000 words per semester, which should cover a normal university load. But all they do have the classes that are link. You can basically say that they want to see the process and this is much more than
Like to your assessment pages. This one, they will go through this usually. I will Yeah, absolutely. Let me just. Okay, so this is again, your system will look a little bit different. But essentially you go to assessments. This is what it will look like. You click into the assessment. These are the quizzes, so you do them online there. For submitting your essays, you click in and you essentially upload it into this program. There will be a button. Yes, yes. And you essentially just submit it to this portal. And then get uploaded. Yes, yes. Yeah.
And then where this is what we are.
Yes. You don't want this Those are just courses essentially to get you acquainted with Flinders, and they are essentially like helpful resources, but you don't need to use them. They'll basically just be links so that you can send support. If you want to Horizon, or package, there might be an Oasis page, that mental health stuff, finding work. These are just places where you can go and you're like, oh, how do I go and get my assessments checked? But nothing that you the only things that count is what. Yes, usually. But they'll just match, they should be matched with what you've been logged into. So for example, if you are enrolled into so this is from the University Military Academic Pathway. So if you were enrolled into NNST 0950, it would show up there.
That's a really good topic. Well, that's right.
Is there anything else?
Okay, so this is
Yes, yes, of course. My name's Catherine. You too. Lovely to meet you. And good luck with everything. If you need anything, you can always contact us or the international. Yes, you too. Hi. How are you? Yeah, no worries.
Okay.